So now I want to give just a few thank yous because there's so many hands and hearts that have made this gathering possible. And I won't be able to thank everyone, but I want to share that gratitude as a place to begin our day together. So especially I want to thank our sponsors who have helped keep the cost of this gathering down for everyone and have contributed a lot of value to our gathering. Especially those who shared delicious tree crop products with us all here. For example, at breakfast, we enjoyed bacon from Enos Farms. Thank you. And that's rotational woods and pasture grazed bacon, mind you, of course. Nature's Keepers provided the black currant preserves. Hopefully you got to try. And Nature's Path provided the hazelnut granola this morning. So thank you to all of our sponsors. And I encourage you to learn more about them. I want to thank each of you for being here. I know it's not always easy to take time away from the farm, from the family, from busy lives, especially this time of year. So thank you for making that investment in this community and being here. I especially want to thank Heather, who's the mastermind who put all this on. Let's give a round of applause for Heather. Thank you so much, Heather. I don't see you here, but I know you can hear us. Heather's been working for a year to put this together and has had the help of a lot of other staff as well, especially Renee, Tyra, Devin, Raina, Jacob, Will, Kate, Lily, MJ, PJ, Julie, and other staff have had roles too. So many of you, thank you. I also want to thank the volunteers. Some of you in this room who've been a part of the planning committee to put together a really excellent program. And really appreciate that. And the presenters who are here to share their experience and knowledge with us. We're very grateful to you. Thanks to the Monona Terrace for hosting us, the folks on staff here who've prepared the meals for us. We're very grateful for that. And thank you to all the exhibitors who've come to share what they have to offer for perennial farms and businesses and individuals. So a round of applause for everyone that we have to thank. It's now my pleasure to continue to kick off the day here for us to offer a couple of special awards to recognize extraordinary individuals in our community. These awards are called the Deep Roots Award and the New Shoots Award. And the Deep Roots Award, first, we established this award to recognize individuals who've made exceptional contributions over the course of their life to the perennial agriculture community. And we give these awards at the PFG in part to help us all learn about the giants whose shoulders we stand on and to be inspired by them. This is our 5th year doing the Deep Roots Award. We first awarded it to Paul Johnson, an Iowa farmer and chief of the Natural Resource Conservation Service, who helped get the National Agroforestry Center going. The following year, we awarded the Deep Roots Award to Kathy Capel, a farmer in Illinois, who has supported this movement for perennial agriculture in many ways there. The following year, we gave the award to Gary Nabhan, a perennial farmer and ethnobotanist who has inspired many with his writings and who we especially hold in our hearts as Lebanon, where his father's from, faces war these days. And last year, we gave the award to Dick Strait, from the National Agroforestry Center in celebration of his long and impactful career there, helping many folks get started in agroforestry and succeed in it. Today, we honor someone after they have passed for the first time. Earlier this year, we suddenly and unexpectedly lost Professor Don Wyse of the University of Minnesota. He had just celebrated 50 years of teaching and research there. He, for decades, championed a vision and helped build a movement called the Forever Green Initiative. So I'm grateful today to welcome to the stage several people to say a few words about Dr. Wyse, and then following those words, we'll welcome some members of his family to accept the award on his behalf. Colin, Cureton, and Fred Iutzi, would you like to come on stage to share a few words about Dr. Wyse, please?
Thank you, Keefe. I'm Fred Iutzi. I'm Director of Agroforestry Innovation at the Savanna Institute. Colin will provide a closer-in perspective on Don, but I wanted to make sure to inject a voice from inside the Savanna Institute and from the broader region that Don affected. Anything you see in the university or the nonprofit space in the Midwest that is focused on perennial crops or on continuous living cover systems that's worth a damn is because of Don in some way. I'm just saying it how Don would say it if he was here. He had a remarkable career and was a lighthouse for a great many of us. When I started my very first professional job, fresh out of grad school with Practical Farmers of Iowa in 2004, the first meeting I went to on the job was Don's roadshow about this new Greenlands Blue Waters initiative that he was forming up. He was going to organize the region. Aaron Meyer, Aaron Reeser are here today, the leadership of that initiative today. Forming that would have been the achievement of a career for a lot of people. Don went and formed an intensive Minnesota version to complement the extensive regional version in Forever Green. As he was transitioning his attention, I was in a research technician position with an alternative crops program at a very lowly state university. And I sort of cold called in, and Don gave me 2 hours helping set out what next directions in an alternative crops research agenda bottom up might look like. And I think there's probably a lot of other stories like this that we can call up from this room. Don's work was with me in every phase of my career after that, in value chain development, in perennial grains, and now with agroforestry and tree crops. Heard from him last maybe a year ago. Phone rang and I heard, "Fred, we need to talk about hazelnuts. Something's coming." And we actually need to follow up on that probably because there's a loose end there. But Don was not a low ego person, but Don was a benign ego person. He took great joy in what he could achieve and what every single person he came into contact could achieve. And if we're going to do this, if we're going to bring agroforestry over the top, if we're going to bring perennial agriculture over the top, that's how we're going to do it. Over to you, Colin.
Excuse me. Morning, everyone. Thank you, Keefe, and thank you, Savanna Institute. I prepared a few comments so I can hold it together. So I'm just going to get into it. A lot has been said about Don Wyse in recent months, and much more will and should be said. I would not be surprised if Don and his vision for a forever green continuous living cover landscape affected millions of acres of land in this region over the next few decades. For those of you that don't know Don or Forever Green, here's the thumbnail sketch. Don made the simple observation that we grow very few spring annual crops. They're very productive, but they only keep the soil covered for 3 months. Count them, 1, 2, 3. The other 9, our soils are vulnerable. Because everything's connected to soil, that makes everything else vulnerable too. Water, wildlife, climate, farmer livelihoods, and rural economies. Starting in the 1970s, he worked with growers in northwestern Minnesota to develop the grass seed industry. He found out that if you do good basic science to develop a new perennial crop, one that has real value, and you do it in partnership with growers, and shepherd that whole process in all its pieces, he'd often do this. You create a market pull that keeps the soil covered year round. Show farmers a real opportunity. He'd always say the word real, and they're in. For many years, grass seed was the most profitable crop in the area and covered up to a quarter of the ag land in those few counties. This new real crop built a real new industry. The biggest reward, Don told me, was that the next generation of kids on those farms went off to school and then came back to farm because they saw an opportunity, a better option than what was on offer in the city. This is the basic idea behind Forever Green. Don went on to build that idea into a full-fledged agricultural innovation platform, unique in the world, developing new perennial and winter annual grains and oilseeds, winter annuals, and woody perennials. Along the way, he built political coalitions that led to platforms like the Minnesota Institute for Sustainable Agriculture, Greenlands with Waters, and later Forever Green. Don was many things to many people. To highlight just a few, he was a husband, a father, an epic grandfather, an accomplished academic, a professor, a great teacher, a researcher, a mentor, a bridge builder, a jokester, sometimes a curmudgeon, an activist, a political operator, and a visionary. In my limited time to tell you about a highly multifaceted person, I would highlight a single word. Don was an organizer. He was organizing world-class plant breeders to take risks on developing perennial grains and oilseeds. He helped organize a disparate and grassroots hazelnut grower community and their plant material into an organized multi-state and institution breeding program. He organized environmental advocates, sustainable and organic agricultural community, rural economic development interests, and a state Department of Agriculture into an international leader in developing solutions to grand challenges in agriculture. He organized famously disparate and bureaucratic forces within a land-grant university to make it actually deliver on the mission of a land-grant university. In his May 2022 profile in the New York Times, at the very end of the interview, the journalist asked, "What do you want to make sure people know about what you do?" Don replied, "I hope that the work we've done shows that there is a need for investing in people who help organize the science, the policy, the supply chain, and commercialization. Again, there is a need for investing in people who can organize." The way I understand it, Don approached plants and people with the same basic idea. He saw not our current role, but our potential. Whether a plant or a person, he plucked us out of whatever field or ditch we might be in and looked at us and said, "What can you do now? What could you do in 5 years? What could you do in 20 years?" And once he found a role for you, he stuck with you, even if for long stretches, he didn't even like you. Even if you went through a few bad years, call it a few bad harvests, he knew you were still developing. He knew there was a place for all of us. Just a couple more minutes. This is the part where I say a few words about the future of Forever Green. Many people thought about Don and Forever Green as one and the same, and they're not wrong. The good news is that, like all great teachers, Don's ideas have found a durable legacy. His students have gone on to be leaders in academia, industry, government, and NGOs. At Forever Green, the year before Don passed, we undertook an intentional leadership transition process. We developed an R&D executive committee made up of 6 elected faculty members. We onboarded a stellar leader, Dr. Mitch Hunter, raise your hand there, no pressure, who has since been named a Forever Green co-director. You also may or may not know that Forever Green was essentially a collaboration between this weed scientist, activist, rabble-rouser, and an agroecologist, Dr. Nick Jordan, and Nick remains in his role. I myself worked with Don for the last 5 years, first representing half of our inaugural commercialization team, later coming to lead a 5-person commercialization, adoption, and scaling team. I remain in this role, and several of you know I'm delving deeper into entrepreneurship that will deepen the impact of Don's ideas. So stay tuned for that. And just last month, we hired Ann Kirby as Forever Green's inaugural Director of Partnerships and Outreach. At the family's explicit request, we will be endeavoring to grow our capacity and impact, and stay tuned on that too. Simply put, Forever Green is strong and growing. We're not going anywhere. In closing, I often wonder what to do with this gift of spending the last 5 years of Don's life, working with him almost every day, calling him almost every day, and having him pick up or call back every single time. Working together to make real steps forward to actualize his vision, which has since become a shared vision by so many. I don't have the answer yet, but I know it's an experience I will never forget and a question I'll never stop asking. If you knew Don, or even if you didn't and have other mentors and visionaries in your life, I ask you to carry the same question with you. What will you do with the gift of the wisdom that's shared with you? One day, perhaps too soon, they may no longer be here, and the torch will be passed to us to do our best and carry the work forward. For those that knew Don, this time is now. Suns rise and suns set. Seasons change. This is the way of things. They're changing now. Don's sun dipped below the horizon a little faster than we expected, but his light, like all light, becomes something else. The energy it carries becomes roots, branches, leaves, fruits, shade, a place to nest and create something new. I'm grateful for Don's light. Let's harness it. Keep thinking big the way he'd press us to, and turn it into something real. Thanks.
Thank you, Colin.
Thanks.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Are you going to introduce Don?
Hey, Dawn, if you'd like to come up. I'm pleased that one of Professor Wyse's children, daughter Dawn, is here to accept this award. So for his lifetime support of perennial agriculture, it's my privilege to recognize with the Deep Roots Award at the Savanna Institute's 2024 Perennial Farm Gathering, Professor Don Wyse. As a physical token of that recognition, we'd like to present the family members here with a wooden bowl made of elm by local artisan Ken Garden. You want to say a few words? Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. No, those were great words. I'm Dawn Wyse-Pester, the D-A-W-N versus the D-O-N. And I just want to share that I am deeply honored and humbled to accept this award for Dr. Wyse. He was very passionate about being helping and an advocate of people in making positive change for agriculture and also communities in underserved populations. He was extremely proud of the team and its accomplishments for Forever Green, but also he was more excited about what was coming next. And that's where his excitement was always building. He understood the value of adding perennial and winter annual crops to the landscape, could help protect and improve the environmental quality while providing economic value to farmers and rural communities. The strategy is simple, but the execution success that is required, takes significant time, resources, and innovation. Similar to the goals and efforts of the Savanna Institute and all the work that is in this room and all the efforts that you put forward. Despite my father's large personality, he was very humble. He didn't like these type of things. The recognitions was not his to take on. It was all about the team, about the people, and all of you doing the hard work. He would often say, it wouldn't happen without them, without their hard work, your hard work. Dr. Wyse's wife, Beverly, and our family is deeply appreciative of this award. We would fondly remember his positive attitude and dedication to agriculture. But I know he would be very quick to say, this is only the beginning, so keep up the good fight. Special thanks to each of you for all your effort and work in agriculture and improving it. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be able to present this award and to remember Dr. Don Wyse's memory. We turn now to our new Shoots Award, which we started to award a year after we started doing the Deep Roots Award. We said we have so many people who are earlier in their path who are doing great work. Wouldn't it be wonderful to celebrate and recognize folks who are making a difference earlier on? And so for their important contributions to our community, past awardees have included Dr. Kevin Wools, Dana Burtness, and Gavi Wiebel. Today, we celebrate Jacque and Dan Enge, a local farming couple who are passionate about perennial agriculture and building community to share its benefits widely. I had the privilege of attending a workshop at their family's farm a couple of years ago, and it was such a wonderful mix of people who were rural, urban, indigenous, settler, farmers, artists, all coming together to learn from each other and to plant trees, planting trees to turn a hayfield into an alley cropping system. It was such a wonderful event, and I've been so impressed and grateful to know Jacque and Dan ever since I started to get to know them. So I'd like to welcome to the stage to tell us a little bit about Jacque and Dan, one of their co-conspirators. Philip Matthews is the Director of Programs at the Wormfarm Institute, who we thank for being a sponsor. And you may have heard about they're hosting the wonderful Farm Art Detour, which I highly recommend if you have wheels and an opportunity to drive a loop just north of Madison and see some spectacular public art and sculpture out in the farm fields, including at Jacque and Dan's farm. And so with that, why don't I welcome you, Philip, onto the stage to say a few words about Jacque and Dan. Thank you.
Good morning. It's my honor today to sing the praises of Jacque and Dan Enge as they accept the New Shoots Award from Savanna Institute. I met Jacque and Dan back in 2020 as Wormfarm planned to bring our farm art detour to southern Sauk County. Now, in its 10th year, this project relies on the generosity of our county's farmers to host site-responsive artworks in the working landscape after the last harvest. These artworks punctuate the land and draw attention to the work that farmers do every day, and more to what farmers might do tomorrow, ultimately helping us, both rural and urban dwellers alike, to imagine new ways of stewarding the land that supports all of us. Jacque and Dan were early adopters and helped us make valuable connections, sharing their deep knowledge of their community and introducing us to other farmers and folks who were willing to take a chance on participating in something new to them. Over the past 4 years, Jacque and Dan have gone above and beyond, serving on the Detour Steering Committee, hosting artists in their home, organizing a Hands in the Soil mini symposium to plant fruit and nut trees on their family land, strengthening rural-urban connections throughout our culture shed, and participating as vendors through their growing regenerative business, the Veggie Emporium and Food Forest. In Wormfarm's work, we strive to remind folks that agriculture and culture are inseparably connected, that they've always been interconnected. Jacque and Dan's collaboration has been essential in this work because they understand that creating shifts in agriculture inevitably depends on creating shifts in a place's culture and vice versa. But to do that, to really do that, you must first understand the place where you're from, the place where you live and work. You must appreciate the nuances of the whole community, both human and biotic, that you're a part of. It is this grounded love of people and place that allow Jacque and Dan to do their work in a meaningful and reverberating way. They inspire their customers, their collaborators, and neighbors to take a fuller view of the issues at hand when we work together towards transformative land stewardship, leading with good hearts and open minds. Even as they honor our region's agricultural past and their own family's lineage on the land, they are also fearless in experimenting with new techniques, regenerative and perennial practices to carry their family and their community forward. Last year, Wormfarm invited about 40 writers and artists to imagine rural places 50 years into the future as part of a zine publication. I'd like to share with you a bit of Jacque and Dan's vision for their place in the world, because I think that it really does speak to real opportunity. And by that, what I mean is that the piece isn't totally idealistic. It's hopeful for the future, but it also acknowledges the real challenges that we face now. I really do believe that in order to change the world, we have to accept reality as it is, because otherwise we're constantly grasping for what isn't and denying the obstacles of what is. I know that. I think many of you in this room know that, and I know that Jacque and Dan know that. So here's a glimpse of a possible future in the year 2073, written by Jacque and Dan. Now that we've used up the fertility of soils produced by thousands of years of bison, elk, and pronghorn grazing on the prairies and savannas of the Midwest, we've figured out the only way to be sustainable is to regenerate the soil. Seas of corn and soy have turned back into diverse prairies. The bison, elk, wolves, and cougars haven't fully returned yet, but domestic ruminants, Swine, poultry, humans, and their canines are doing their best to mimic the roles of their wild counterparts. As the ruminants move through, they eat the forage and crush the grass into the soil, increasing organic matter and improving its water holding capacity. Goats and sheep browse on the woody shrubs. Turkeys and chickens peck and scratch after the larger animals have moved through, eating parasites and integrating their manure. Even with the lack of wild megafauna, it's obvious that wild diversity is improving. Fireflies light up the night. The crickets, cicadas, locusts, and frogs are so loud, it's hard to have a conversation with someone 3 feet away. The sky is filled with too many different species of birds to count. Who would have thought a productive agricultural landscape could also be a wildlife conservation refuge? This is a vision worth working for, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank Jacque and Dan for joining me and all of us in that effort. Congratulations to both of you on this well-deserved award.
Come on up. Thank you, Philip, for those wonderful words. It's now my pleasure and honor, come on up here, for your unique and inspiring contributions to perennial agriculture. It's my privilege to recognize with the New Shoots Award at the Savanna Institute's 2024 Perennial Farm Gathering, Jacque and Dan Enge. As a physical token of it, there we go. Thank you. Let me just say this bowl is made of box elder, appropriate for new shoots. As any farmer knows, they're always coming up. And how wonderful to hear about the fireflies too. I think of you two as just like fireflies, sort of a light in the night to help inspire us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We just want to say a few words. We are beyond honored to accept this award, and thank you, Philip Matthews, for nominating us.
So since we're pretty new here, just want to give a brief background of who we are, what we're currently working on. So I grew up in South County, Wisconsin. So I'm 3rd generation conventional dairy farmer. So this is where I harnessed a love for the land and the natural world and just life in general. In 2019, Jacque moved here. We started our first large regenerative garden. But then when harvest came, we realized we planted way too much for just ourselves. So we built, with the help of our friend, a small roadside stand out of pallets. As our gardens grew more abundant and diverse, so did our business, Veggie Emporium. So I've been breeding and selecting trees since 2016. Been planting them for a lot longer before that, but started selecting my genetics or improved genetics since 2016. And then in 2020, we started offering improved genetics to the public from our tree nursery via Veggie Emporium. In this space, we grow native trees, but we focus mostly on food-producing trees such as, hazelnuts, chestnuts, pawpaws, persimmons, even some seed-grown apples.
So in 2022, we attempted to integrate agroforestry and within Enge Farms, which is, again, our family's conventional dairy farm that we work at. And as you saw in the program, and we've already talked about, we worked with the Savanna Institute, Grasslands 2.0, Rural Urban Flow, and Nearby Nature to offer a tree symposium where we talked about the inevitable consequences of climate change within the agricultural fields and beyond. We planted approximately 100 trees, which added to the alley cropping idea that we had in mind for the farm.
Since then, we've been adding to the diverse genetics of our food forest, which was established after a logging project in 2015. This project, which is multiple different plots of swaled orchards, also integrates restored oak savanna. And it's actually, I don't know, it was in that picture to the right of Jacque. You can barely see it. It's about a half-mile away, but that's our oak savanna we're restoring. Just to note a few more projects, last fall, we were approached by a family member who became intrigued with our mission. So we integrated a fruit and nut orchard within a already established CRP prairie in Illinois. We were able to plant 12 different species totaling 110 trees. Along with the ongoing maintenance and breeding program of our current nursery, we're also working on restoring a remnant goat prairie on top of a sandstone bluff behind the home that we rent.
So it seems as though our efforts in integrating agroforestry or perennial agriculture in general has come to a halt within our family's dairy farm, but that's not stopping us. So we just opened up a new farm stand, which is a heck of a lot bigger than our first. It's an enclosed 12 by 12 building on skids. And the current project that we're working on is to secure a place of our own in order to grow literally and figuratively, where we can integrate all of the practices that we have come to learn and cherish.
Just want to close. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Keefe. Thank you, everybody. The energy behind everyone here and honor of accepting this award, just driving us more to carry on our mission of building healthier, regenerative ecosystems. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jackie and Dan. Keep up the great work. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for being a part of the awards this year. And what a great way to celebrate our whole community. You know, we celebrate individuals, but it's really a recognition of this whole extraordinary community.